Have you ever held back in a room, not because you didn't have something to say, but because it felt safer to stay quiet? In today's conversation, you'll learn how to recognize that voice underneath it, what gets in the way of trusting it, and what it actually looks like to follow it when it really matters. Welcome back to the Delay the Binge Podcast. I'm Pam Dwyer, and I help people pause long enough to break unhealthy patterns, especially the ones that look like success on the outside, but feel quietly depleted underneath. And today's conversation is part of the Becoming series, The Return, where awareness isn't the finish line. It's where real-life application begins. Today, I'm joined by Wendy Kim. Wendy is a keynote speaker, international best-selling author of Beyond Blending In, and a leadership coach who helps people follow what she calls the pull, that quiet, persistent voice that knows exactly who you are and what you're here to do. She's worked with organizations like Amazon, Apple, ServiceNow, and the American Red Cross, helping leaders break through limiting beliefs, own their voice, and make the impact only they can make. But what really stood out to me is that for years, Wendy did everything right, achieved at a high level, delivering results while quietly blending in and silencing her own voice to fit into those spaces that weren't really built for her. And when she stopped trying to fit and started following that pull, everything changed. Wendy, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here with us.
Thank you. So glad to be here, Pam.
Before we dive in, I love to start here because it's so interesting to me to find out, what your work looks like right now and what you're most excited about in this season.
I am really excited that I'm going to be launching a podcast. So, following in your footsteps, Pam. And I'm excited about the theme of the podcast, which is going to be the name of the podcast is going to be Follow the Pull. And we're going to be focusing on cultivating your inner wisdom, listening to your intuition, and building self-trust and self-confidence, not from external validation, but from listening to that inner voice.
I am so excited about that because, I always tell my kids, they're adults now, but I always tell them, listen to your gut. And they're like, what do you mean? So they're still young enough to where they haven't realized how important that is, that we trust what our bodies are trying to tell us and what our, intuition is saying. So you've shared that for a long time about your intuition and trusting it. You were doing everything right once upon a time, it looks like, achieving, showing up, delivering, but still holding back your voice. What did that actually look like in your day-to-day life? And was there a moment where you started to realize, I'm not fully being myself here?
Yeah. What comes to mind is I had been recently promoted in a tech company. I was a senior manager. I was the youngest, the only woman of color in that position. And I had really worked hard to get to that point.
Yeah.
And part of that was silencing my voice and making other people happy, not making waves. That there were some cultural elements to that too. But really I had wanted from my childhood to actually be more like Oprah and to use my voice to make a difference in the world. But I had thought, oh, okay, I can't do that. I can't be like Oprah. I'm different than her. I'm not that kind of person. So let me do what people are telling me to do, which is, okay, work hard in a company and then you'll be successful, you'll make money. And so that's what I did. And then one day my colleague came into my office and he said, "Wendy, do you know what people are saying about you?" And I was thinking how great of a job I'm doing that I got this promotion. And then he said, "Actually, people are saying that you must have slept with the big boss
Oh,
in
gosh.
order to get this position." And I mean, I am still, but I was married at the time and a person of faith, and I that was so contrary to anything even within my world, and so for someone to say that was so shocking to me, but
Yeah.
it was also a wake-up call to me that this is not never actually what I really wanted. This was never my dream. It was what I had been what I thought was possible or what I should do, and that woke me up to my true purpose, which is to work with women and to do coaching, to do speaking, and to inspire them to use their voice and to live into their potential.
Wow. And that's so important now. I mean, giving women a voice. Every corporate job I've ever had, I can pretty much predict what's going to happen. I'm very friendly, very outgoing, and I work my job like I own the company. I mean, I've had an incredible work ethic, but for some reason, people feel threatened by that. Every single job, no matter what my position is, people like to make me look different than I am. And so I have struggled with that personally. It makes you almost want to dumb yourself down. But I
Yeah.
can so relate to that story. Was there ever a point in your life where you felt like you learned it was safer to stay quiet or hold back?
Yeah, definitely. There was a moment where so I grew up in my early childhood in Pittsburgh, and I was always the only Asian kid in my school. Even in my community, I'd go years not seeing anyone who looked like me. And I when I was 11, I moved to Hawaii to live with my mom and stepfather, and at the time I thought, "Okay, this is great. I'll look like other people. I'll be accepted." But, one day I was new to this school. I was in my 6th grade math class in Hawaii, and I was such a teacher's pet, and my teacher was asking all these questions, and at that time, I was decent at math, and I was raising my hand and super excited to learn, and then I noticed as I looked around that no one else was raising their hand. And they were looking at me with their arms crossed, and they were giving me what in Hawaii we call stink eye.
Yes.
And I'm
Say that
thinking,
here too.
okay, thinking this is not good. So I leave class after it's done, and my classmate, she comes up to me and she says, "Wendy, you're such a show off. We all knew the answers, but we didn't raise our hand." And so in that moment, I decided I needed to silence my voice. That in order to be accepted in this culture, that I couldn't be self-expressed. I couldn't really exercise my voice. I needed to just put my head down and work hard and be quiet, and that's what I did for a long time.
Those patterns, all right? Those are patterns. And as young l- girls, we learn real early, don't we? What
Yes.
we must do to fit in.
Yeah.
And it's so untrue. And it's so sad because that's drilled into our head. I have to share this with you because I think you'll find interest in it. I stumbled upon this research that was done. It was just a video showing this one question that was asked to boys and girls of all different ages. And the boys were asked, "Hey, how do you walk like a girl?" And the boys would be like all prissy, me, 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 me. But then they'd ask the same age girl, how do you walk like a girl? And they would do the same thing, imitate a prissy little girly walk. And they're like, how do you throw a ball like a girl? And the boys would go, they'd be really weak about it. But the girls would do the same thing. We are taught early, that we walk and throw like a girl. And that's a big, big insulting thing to say. And they know it is, but they accept it. So did you find that when you hold back like that, what's the hardest part about changing it, reversing it, undoing it?
Yeah, so my career was in the video game industry.
Oh,
So
cool.
tech is already like a super male dominated space,
Mhm.
but video gaming is actually more so. And this was before the Me Too movement. So the environments were really toxic. One example is that the one of the leaders would actually to kind of show how he was an alpha. He had female names for each of the male coworkers who worked for him. So there was a guy named Martin, and he called him Marsha. And there were constant comments about women and how they look and their appearance. And so it was, in order to fit in early on, I would act as if I was one of the guys.
Mhm.
So I would laugh along, and even talking about this now, I'm like appalled looking back, and I can have compassion for me as like a young woman in my 20s trying to make it in this career, right? So they would make comments. Sometimes they'd make there were many men who would make comments about my appearance. And if there was a woman who might question something like that or push back, then they were one of those girls, quote unquote. They
Mhm.
they weren't cool. They didn't get it. And so that was very much the environment. And over time, especially when I had my daughter, I realized, hey, this is not okay. This is not okay for women to be treated like this. And so I would start to actually say things like, "Oh, why are you saying that?" Or "What do you mean by that?" And actually push back. But it took practice,
Yeah.
because I was worried I was going to get fired, or I was worried somehow it would impact my job, my bonuses, things like that.
Well, and I mean, it's human nature to want to belong. You don't want to risk not fitting in, not belonging, not connecting, because that's what we're wired to do. But unfortunately, in that type of environment, a lot of us have been there. And I understand so well. I've worked in an IT environment too, and you're right. It is so much like that. And you don't say anything, but sometimes they say silence is just as bad as, being part of it. But I just didn't have the confidence. So can you talk to me about, I think this is a good time for us to talk about the pull. What is the pull?
Yeah, following the pull is listening to your your gut and what it's telling you, and listening to what you really want versus what your brain might tell you is the responsible thing, is the logical thing, or the thing that you should do. So, for example, for me, when I was in that environment, so after that incident happened, I thought to myself, I actually want to start a business and I want to do coaching, I want to do speaking. And so that's what my gut was pulling me toward. But my head was saying, Wendy, you don't know how to do that. Wendy, there aren't people who look like you who are doing this. So that's not even possible. Wendy, that's not responsible. You're a mom. You make good money. You've worked so hard. Why would you throw that away? So my mind was started spinning out and was trying to protect me. And then would talk me out of actually following my gut. But then what would happen is it would show up again. I could feel this pull almost in my soul that was saying, "You need to do this, Wendy. You need to follow this intuition, this dream of yours." And then my head would be like, "No, no." But what I did was I started to listen to my gut. And so I would check in and actually quiet the noise in my head and listen to my heart, listen to my gut, and it would just say the first thing it said was coaching. So I was like, I'm not really sure what coaching is. I started researching coaching. And then the next thing it said is talk to other people who are entrepreneurs, other female entrepreneurs. And so it wouldn't like my head wanted the full on 3-year plan, step by step,
Yeah.
the certainty, right? The control. But my gut would just give me a baby step. And so every time, so I would follow those baby steps till eventually I was able to leave my corporate job. I was able to create a successful 6-figure coaching business and speak to companies like Amazon, Apple, but it wasn't all figured out and mapped out from the beginning. It was me following the pull step by step.
I love that so much. It's a lot like, I don't know what your faith is, but I am a Christian, but I always refer to my pull as a strand, just one little strand of God that I it's my gift. Whatever
Mhm.
that gift is, it's going to keep showing itself. It's going to keep trying to get your attention. And they say you go down a lot of wrong roads, but those struggles, those lessons that we learn are preparing us, making us stronger at our strand. And I just see that so much in what's happening. You're being called and literally led to do what you're doing now. And I have taken a similar path. I just knew that I had a story that I thought might help people. If you don't listen to your gut, to that pull, then you're never going to feel satisfaction, that contentment. And that is what I started Delay the Binge for. It's not just for food, it's for women that overwork, overplease, do everything in excess because they're either searching, they have no clue who they are because they're just doing everything they're supposed to do, and they forget to really listen to that pull. And
Yeah, that's
yeah,
that's spot on. As women, we are conditioned to be responsible, to serve others, and especially for me coming from my culture, coming from an immigrant background, I was never asked, "What do you want, Wendy?"
yeah,
It that would have been so indulgent. We're not trained to learn how to ask ourselves, "What do we want? What is our gut telling us?" But there's a big cost to that. The cost of not being in alignment, not feeling fulfilled. And I believe the cost is success too, because if you're not doing something that you truly want to be doing, then you're actually limiting your success, because I believe that you are going to be more successful if you're doing something that you really want to be doing.
Well, and you have to trust that voice inside of you, what the pull is telling you to do, your calling, or what you're being led to do that would give you pure joy and fulfill your passions. If the voice is always there, even in the years when we're trying to blend in and you haven't fully trusted it yet, how do you tell someone that has felt it but they don't trust it? How do you help them see it and trust it?
So the voice in your head, that's what we've cultivated our entire lives.
Yeah.
Oh, you shouldn't do that. You should do this. And it's always coming from what you should be doing versus what you want to be doing. So that voice is always going to be, especially as you're learning to listen to your gut, that voice in your head is going to be super loud. So,
Mhm.
an example I can give you recently, and it doesn't have to be following the poll just in big life decisions. In fact, I would advise that you start off with smaller micro moments. So, for instance, I have two teenagers. That is probably my biggest accomplishment in my life, is still being here. So my daughter, I can't remember exactly what she was saying, but it was something, she was being a teenager and being a bit sassy, and how it was occurring to me like she was being ungrateful and not respectful. And I remember thinking, gosh, like I should have raised her better. Like, there's the should, I should have raised her better. If I were a better mom, she would not be talking to me like this. And she shouldn't be talking to me like this. This is rude. This is disrespectful. And so that was the voice in my head going off. Quieted that voice, set that aside, and I got still, and I actually even like to put my hand maybe on my heart, or on my stomach, and I'll quiet that voice in my head and I'll go, "What do you want?" Like, I'll ask my gut, "What do you want?" or what's the next right step? And in that moment, it said, "Be curious." I just go over to my daughter and I'm like, "How are you doing today? How's it going?" And that was a complete disruption of the pattern, because
Yeah.
normally I'd go in there and be like, "Why are you talking to me like this? You shouldn't be talking to me like this. You're
Yeah.
being rude. Like, stop." And then things would have escalated. But in this case, I followed the poll. We completely shifted the conversation. I actually was able to connect with her.
Wow.
So it's practicing in those micro moments, listening to your gut and building up that muscle of
Mhm.
that voice, so that you actually can learn to not just listen to this voice in your head that's gonna spiral and spin and overthink and overanalyze, but truly what is the right next step in that moment.
I really love that. I can relate to that too. So there's probably been many times when you did not, listen to your intuition, your pull, and you visited with some of those memories with us. But like this with your daughter, moving forward, choosing it in real time can be challenging. And we teach the pause, just taking a moment, a few seconds to let your brain come back online, the frontal part of your brain, your thinking part of your brain, because the lower brain is always in charge, trying to just tell you something temporary to do to get you through. But what does it look like to follow it? I mean, like, how does it feel when you follow the pull and it works out? But it is uncomfortable. So, I mean, how does it feel when you do it anyway?
I find that telling myself to just stop in the moment is not very effective
Mhm.
because usually I'm escalated and
Yeah.
upset. So what I'll do is I'll literally in my head go follow the pole. And I practice that. So when I say follow the pole, I'll actually ask, okay, what do you need? Like, what do you need? What do you want? And I'll ask my intuition that. So what that looks like is I'm trying to think of a specific example where like obviously I shared about my daughter, even launching this podcast so that I'm going to be launching. I had a podcast several years ago and it didn't really turn out the way that I wanted it to. A big part of it is I was doing it on my own. I couldn't really keep up with it on my own. And so even in business decisions, like I was asking myself, okay, this is going to be a big investment. I'm working with this team, but they also know what they're doing, whereas I did not have a clue. And so I checked in and I asked my intuition and I was like, is this the next right step to work with this team? And my gut said yes. And I I'm now I'm able to just set aside all the chatter and just move forward and focus my energy. So really we all have an inner wisdom. It's just a matter of learning to trust that and to cultivate that.
Yeah, because a lot of times we may have this pull, this intuition, and we want to act on it, but fear gets in the way. So how do you
Yep.
help people distinguish between fear and intuition?
That is such a great question because sometimes in the beginning, I would say all the time pretty much because we've been conditioned to listen to our brain, right? Our mind.
Yeah.
So I'll do this with clients, for instance, and I'll ask, okay, what does your gut tell you? My gut is telling me that I should do the responsible thing and the logical thing, and I'm feeling guilty, and I should. And I'm like, okay, that's not your intuition, okay? That's your mind taking over, and you're just not used to listening to your gut. So you're just going back in your head and in the spiral of overthinking that we've all been conditioned to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so to your point, if generally speaking, if it's coming from fear, if it's coming from scarcity, that's your mind going into overdrive. When you listened to your gut, I did this with my best friend yesterday. So yesterday was her birthday, and she had wanted to go to the spa together, and she was feeling guilty because she had celebrated all weekend with her family, with her
Mhm.
friends, and almost like she didn't deserve to actually celebrate this day too on her birthday. And she also had family visiting from out of town, so she was feeling really guilty. And so I asked her to follow the poll, and she said, "Oh yeah, I should stay home and be with my family." And again, if you hear "should," that's also a dead giveaway that that's your head, because your
Yeah.
mind is gonna be like, "You should do this, you should." So I said, "Okay, that's I don't think that's your gut. I don't think you're following the poll. That's okay. Really, like, what do you wanna do?" And she said, "I want to go to the spa." And she was able to see that if she didn't go to the spa and she stayed out of guilt, then she would have felt resentful. And then she might have act, behaved in a certain way toward her family, which would defeat the entire purpose anyways, right?
Yeah.
So she ended up going to the spa and then spending time with her family in the evening, and she had a great time.
Yes, I like when everybody wins,
Yeah. Yeah,
including myself.
exactly.
If someone is listening right now and they feel that pull, but they're used to overriding it, what's a small way they can begin to follow it without feeling like they have to change everything overnight?
Yeah, so I will ask my gut, what is one baby step forward I could take? Or what is the next right step I could take? So it could be, okay, maybe you want to start a business, for instance,
Mhm.
and you're overwhelmed at how to do that. So a lot of times I've noticed when you ask your gut, okay, what is the next right step? It will actually tell you, it will actually tell you, make that phone call. Call that person maybe who's doing that thing. Do some research. It will actually tell you what the next right step is so that you're getting into action
Mhm.
and not feeling overwhelmed.
I love that. And do you notice this? I have noticed this over and over. A lot of people wait to be motivated to do something, to listen to that pull and make a step in that direction. But unless you act first, I mean, every time I do act first, the motivation happens after. And then I continue to make more small steps in that direction. But if you wait, like you said, if you pause, then, a lot of times you'll miss the boat, so to speak. But there is a moment, and I love how you keep referring to the next right thing. We say that a lot too on this show. The pause enables you to think about what the next right thing is. Because a lot of times we just override it, right? Is that what you see a lot too?
Yeah, I find that people, again, like to talk themselves out of what they actually want.
Well, because they don't think
And
they're worthy of it, or they don't think
yeah,
it can be done.
absolutely. Yeah, 100%. They also, there's fear. Like
Mhm.
I have a client, for instance, and she's always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but she has like a very stable, successful job right now, and she's actually the breadwinner in her family. She has kids and a partner, and her pull was to become an entrepreneur. But for many years she talked herself out of it. And then we started coaching together, and she's taking the baby steps, and she now is an entrepreneur. She has clients, she's speaking, she's doing amazing work. But it's because she did follow the pull eventually. And one of the first steps was actually even saying yes to coaching together.
Wow.
That was a big step for her, and investing in herself and investing in the pull so that she didn't continue to talk herself out of her dream.
I myself and a lot of other people that I know, friends, family, we can be so spontaneous sometimes with our actions. And it may seem like a good idea at the time, whatever, if we think that we're being pulled, and it's not intuition.
Yeah.
Spontaneity and intuition is completely different. I mean, do you agree with that? Or how do you see, I mean, can we use our spontaneity to accomplish the pull successfully? Or what would you recommend we do with that?
Yeah, I find that reactions typically
Yes.
can come from fear. And so, however, when you actually follow the pull and drop into your gut, it's very grounding.
Yeah.
This up here, your mind overthinking,
Yeah.
is a frenetic, anxious type of energy. But when you listen to your gut, it's very grounding. So typically it's not going to be reactive. Uh,
Yeah.
one of the things that I encourage my clients to do is to say there's an opportunity. Like I have a client who's got so many amazing opportunities, she doesn't even know what to do with them. She's afraid of missing out by not saying yes to certain opportunities, but if she takes on too much, obviously she's not going to fulfill on what she really wants to. So, I have a phrase called "let me get back to you," and practicing even if something seems like it's the most amazing opportunity in the world, you would be dumb not to take this opportunity, right? Like,
Yeah.
practicing "let me get back to you" and allowing yourself in time and space to make sure that you're not just reacting out of fear, out of scarcity, but truly that it is in alignment with what you want.
I can relate to that. And it really helps. Do you find this to be so as well, to be surrounded by people or even a coach in this instance that can say, let me get back to you, someone that knows you as well as you know yourself. Like for me, I know I'm going to give it 120%, whatever I agree to. And if I just keep taking on all these great opportunities that are great opportunities, and a lot of times you get excited and you just want to go for it and do it. But if you have someone in your life that can hold you accountable and remind you, do you really have time to add another 120% effort here? A lot of times that's what a coach can do for you. And just saying, let me get back to you because it is exciting and you do want to do it, but a lot of times it's not in your best interest.
Exactly, and that's where in my coaching, we work on your 10-year vision, we're working on your 1-year vision, your 3-year vision, and having that in mind so that when you're looking at opportunities, really seeing if they're in alignment for you
Mhm.
versus just something that sounds cool, which I have ADHD. In that moment, it's I mean, we've all been there, right? Where
Yeah.
we said yes to something and in the moment we thought, "Okay, this sounds amazing." And then 2 weeks later we're going, "Why did I say yes to this? This doesn't
Yep.
make sense and it's overwhelming. It's a burden." Then you're feeling guilty because you said yes, but really this was never in true alignment.
Yeah, man, saying yes to everything will burn you out. And I also wanted to back up a little bit and talk about how amazing the pull is because it allows you to be proactive instead of reactive, instead of listening, getting in
Yes.
your head and just reacting. I love that. I love how you mentioned that because we need to be proactive in everything that we do, even what comes natural to us.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, this has been amazing, and I don't even want to stop. You'll find with your podcast, the hardest thing to do is when you're speaking to someone amazing, it's so hard to just stop asking the questions.
I could
No
see
one wants
that.
to listen to like a 5 hour long podcast. I could literally do that with you. But anyway, this has been such a meaningful conversation, and I think that my listeners are going to get a lot out of it. Can you tell us how to find you and your work and
Absolutely. So I'm on LinkedIn as Wendy Kim, and I'm also on Instagram. My handle is Beyond Blending In, and also that's my website, and all of my contact information is there beyond at beyondblendingin.com.
perfect? And I'll be sure and put those in the show notes, everybody. So don't freak out if you can't write it down right now and you're driving. Don't do that. But I think so many people learned at some point, whether it was in a room, a workplace, or a relationship, that it's safer to stay quiet than to fully be themselves. And what you've shared today it's such a powerful reminder that the voice they've been holding back never actually went away. It's still there. And I know in my Becoming series, The Return, which you will be part of, by the way, this episode, it's perfect for that because it's about how to apply what we're learning. Because you'll notice a lot of people talk the talk, but there's no solutions. It's like, okay, this is wonderful. I hear you, but how can I apply it to my life? What do I need to do? Specifically, what do I need to do? And so it's not about becoming someone new. It's about coming back to that voice and trusting it, even when it
Yes.
feels uncomfortable.
Yeah, follow the pull is really shorthand for being able to trust your inner wisdom, inner guidance, and also I'll find the pull will lead you to be able to express that too. And because when you're in alignment, uh, the more you're doing that, the more you're building that muscle, the more you are able to actually express your voice as well. And so, yeah, self-expression is a huge part of my coaching as well and the work that I do. And the first step is really trusting that inner voice.
Yep. Trusting the inner voice and quit giving your energy away to all the people that don't believe in it. Keep your energy for moving forward with your inner voice, what you're being called to do. Thank you again for being here with us. If something in this conversation stood out to you, don't just move on from it. That moment where you felt something shift, that's the pause, and what you do next matters. The next best thing. If you want to go deeper into this work, I do share more inside my weekly newsletters. There's Inside the Pause and Behind the Mic, where we take conversations just like this and feature our wonderful guests and help you apply them in your real life. You can find those links in the show notes. Wendy, you are amazing, and thank you for sharing your message with us today. It matters more than you know.
Thank
And
you
as
for
always,
having me here. It was great being with you, Pam.
yes, thank you. Thank you. I enjoyed it so much, and I learned a lot, so thanks for that. And as always, pause, choose, build momentum, and finish stronger than you started. See y'all next week.